Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm so excited because I'm going to be reading what I'm calling controversial books. Some people might not think they're controversial. It's just I see a lot of discussions on these books and I really want to read them. Some of these tropes are what's considering them in my mind as controversial. And so there might be some people who really dislike this trope or just don't like this book. And I just want to be in the know. I want to know if I'm going to like them. So they are all on Kindle Unlimited also. So I don't have any of these books physically, all going to be read on my Kindle. And let's talk about them. So the first book that I already have downloaded and the most recent book that I've added to this list is Little Stranger by Lee Rivers. Now, if you don't follow or are not on Book Talk, over the last, I don't know, week or so, I've seen this like all over my For You page. It is a dark romance with foster siblings. Like there's no blood relation from what I'm getting. It's a romance between the foster siblings. And I think one of them goes to jail. And that's pretty much literally all I know. There is a spider on the book. And I've listened to some audio like snippets, like audiobook snippets of this book. And apparently the spider has something to do in this book. So we have Little Stranger. The second book I'm reading is 100% of Larry or Larissa on YouTube. She absolutely loves the book For the Fans. This is another romance. This one, though, is Step Brothers. It's a romance. And I've never read a Step Brothers romance. I really don't know how that's going to go. But she absolutely loves this book. It is like one of her go-to books. She loves it so much. And so I am going to be reading it and seeing what I think. So we have For the Fans, and that's by Nyla Kay. Then we're going to be reading Priest by Sierra Simone. This one is a priest romance. I've literally never read that either, so I don't know how that's going to go. The next book that I want to read is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This one is an age gap romance, and a lot of people do not like age gap. This one is, I think, an extreme age gap. I think it's the FMC ends up dating her boyfriend's dad, possibly. Could be 100% wrong, but that's what I have in my brain. I just know it's an age gap romance. So we're going to be reading Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. And then the last book that I'm going to be reading, people have a very strong opinion of this book. Either love it so much or absolutely hate it and is disturbed by the contents of the book is kind of what I'm grasping whenever I hear this book talked about. And that is going to be Credence by Penelope Douglas. And I gotta say, this one is the one I really don't know which way I'm gonna go. Because what I'm getting with this one is a girl is like in the woods, I guess, and she's with a group of guys. It's more than one MMC. And the people that she's with are not blood related, but she calls them, I think, Uncle so-and-so and cousin so-and-so. Like they are like family friends, like that type of family friend that like you call your uncle or cousin or whatever, but you really have no blood relation to them. And I think she calls them that while they're in a romance, which is very unsettling to say the least. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading, and I'm so excited. I have really been eyeing and having these on my Kindle for a while, just waiting to read them. And I think, honestly, the first book that I do want to read is Little Stranger. And so I really want to start out with a bang with Little Stranger and then wrap up the video with Credence and then have the other books kind of sprinkled in the middle. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to start reading Little Stranger. And I'm so excited.
You always searching for a better thing. wanna replace me. I'm in a place that I've never been. It's worse than lonely. Can someone tell me they see good in me? There's good in me. Cause I got doubts, I got doubts, I got doubts, yeah. Sometimes I wanna risk it all. Since you left me, struggle, baby, I see pain. Cause I got nothing. Can someone tell me they see good in me? There's good in me. Cause I got doubts, I got doubts, I got doubts, yeah. Ooh, isn't it strange?
Okay.
We turn to strangers.
Let's chat. So, I have been reading this off and on for, I don't know, a couple of hours. I'm at 56% now. Granted, so this is a very short book. It is only 207 pages, so it is very short. So I've been able to read half of this book in about 2 hours, and that's taking breaks. So I had to take a break to cook dinner, and I came back. Like, I had to stop in the middle of a chapter, and it was the last chapter before part 2. So I had to stop before things progressed, and I just came back and finished up that chapter, and now I'm in part 2. So in the trigger warnings, I'm going to go back to the trigger warnings really fast. So the content warning says, the literal very first sentence says, "Don't be fooled by part 1. This book is one of the darkest I've ever written and contains a lot of triggering content that some readers may find unsettling." So with that being said, I honestly, I didn't find any issues other than the very last piece of what just happened that really was anything triggering to me. I think, honestly, after reading this, I think Credence might be okay for me, because as long as there's a clean line that there is no blood relation, I am okay with Olivia and Malachi. It's weird and twisted and definitely taboo, but I'm okay with it. They're not hurting anybody, well, they weren't hurting anybody, or she wasn't hurting anybody. Malachi was. But it wasn't that bad. Now, looking at the trigger warnings, there were a lot of things that were in the content trigger warnings that were not happening in part 1. And with the author saying that part 1, don't think part 1 is bad, or don't be shocked by part 1, or whatever she just said. So making part 2 seem like it's going to be very, very, very dark. So I am intrigued. So far, I'm actually enjoying this. I don't know what I'm going to end up rating it. But overall, it's a very fast, very spicy, intriguing read. And I am enjoying it. So now I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Malachi and Olivia 8 years later, after what all went down in the last chapter. So overall, having a fun time. Really excited to see where this is going to go. Ooh, so chapter 10, the first chapter of part 2, we're finally in Malachi's perspective. So far, all you've been is in Olivia's perspective. You haven't heard anything out of Malachi. He's mute, so literally you haven't heard anything, but you haven't gotten his perspective. This is where his perspective picks up. So I'm excited to finally be able to see or hear what his thoughts are. I love dual POVs. Okay, editing Heidi here, realizing I never gave you my thoughts on Little Stranger. So we're going to do it now. So I ended up rating Little Stranger 3 stars. It was a good book. I had a fun, enjoyable time. Part 2 was definitely much worse than part 1, like the author had referred to. But the reason why I ended up giving that 3 stars versus anything higher was, thinking back on it, there's no blood relation. I'm happy for that. But the thing that I have an issue with, was they grew up together as like brother and sister. Like they referred to each other, or she referred to him as her brother. He never spoke, so he really couldn't refer back to her as anything else other than, like, he couldn't refer back to her at all. But she called him her brother, which is weird that they then go on to have a spicy relationship together. Even though they have no blood relation, they grew up together, and that's a little weird. So, end up giving that 3 stars just because I wasn't a fan of that. The spicy scenes, I think not a big deal if they would have been older when they first met and like started their like family. So there was that. The other thing that really kind of dropped down the score, and I feel this not just with dark romance, but any romance whatsoever, there's a very, for me at least, a very specific page count that I think romance books need to have. This book was only a little over 200 pages. And because of that, it was very, very, very fast paced. And I didn't feel like I really knew the characters, and like I didn't connect with the characters, because usually if I connect to the characters, I like them more, and therefore I kind of score them higher for like book scoring. But when it's a very short book, you don't have that like connection with the characters because you only have a very short amount of time to read about them. So this book being 200 pages, it was too fast. I really didn't think I I didn't connect to the characters very much. And it was a good read, but I just didn't care about Malachi or Olivia. Like, it was just, I was here for the good times, but could care less about the characters in general. And I probably will never think about them again until the next book comes out. So that's what Little Stranger got rated as. 3 stars. Was a good book. Did have some things that I did not like about it, but I am excited to see what the next book is going to hold, because I will be reading that next book and hopefully it will be higher than 3 star. Okay, it is a couple days later and I have an update. I have finished For the Fans, and I ended up rating that 4 stars. So I have never read a stepbrother romance. This is actually the second book that I have read ever. And so I didn't know how I was going to like it. They are stepbrothers, so no blood relation. The stepbrothers only became part of their family when they were like in high school. So they did not grow up together. Like it was enemies to lovers. They hated each other. And then they went off to college together. So ended up giving it 4 stars. It wasn't as bad as it probably could have been if they would have like grown up together as like step siblings. It was a very, very spicy book, but I felt like the reason why I bumped it down, so this book is like 700 pages, and I felt like some of the spice scenes could have been cut out. And so I think the reason why the author put that in was to show like the steady progression of their relationship, and like how it progressed from, just kind of looking to like touching to like progressively getting more intimate. And so I'm assuming that's why all of those scenes were put in, like the progression of their relationship. But other than that, I didn't feel like we needed to go so in depth on everything. So you saw the spice progression, but you also kind of saw the relationship progression. And then once you got to the like 70% mark, the detailed spice, I felt like wasn't as intense, but it was still there. I felt like if the book would have been slightly shorter, I probably would have rated it higher, because I really did enjoy the enemies to lovers aspect. And overall, it was a decent read. It wasn't amazing. I didn't think it was a 5-star for sure. If it would have been shorter, maybe it would have been rated a little bit higher. I was enjoying it, and it was a very interesting stepbrother romance. And then the next book that I'm going to be reading, so the books that I did have intentionally planned for this video was Priest by Sierra Simone, Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, and then Credence by Penelope Douglas. I have since then decided I'm not going to read Priest because I don't really think it's controversial. I feel like from like what I saw, a lot of people either liked it or they didn't, but it wasn't anything that was kind of like taboo or kind of a trope that people would have issues with. So I'm not going to be reading Priest. I have went ahead and just removed it from my Kindle Unlimited library. I'm not going to worry about it. I might pick it up later, but it's not going to be part of this video. But the next book I will be reading for this video is going to be Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Now, I did start this yesterday or last night. I only got like 6% in, and this is a age gap romance. And a lot of people don't care for age gap romances, specifically when there's a large age gap. And a lot of people don't like age gap if it's a older person who knew the younger person like when they were kids, because that's kind of creepy. This one does not seem to be that way. It is a girl who is 19, who, where I'm at in the book, she just met and realized the person that she was talking to in a movie theater, who kind of she struck up a little, conversation with, is actually her boyfriend's father, who is like in his 30s. So there's like a 20 plus age gap between the two. So you have boyfriend's father and age gap. So that is the book that we're going to be reading next. And so far, so good. I'm going to see if I'm going to enjoy this age gap romance. I have heard a lot of people do thoroughly enjoy this book. And then I'll be moving on to Credence. Other than A Little Stranger, Credence was the book that I was the most excited to read. So we're going to hopefully finish up this book, Birthday Girl, today. I'm going to try to shoot to have it all done today. And then tomorrow will be Credence. And I am extremely excited about that. So we are currently at work. We're at lunch right now. We're going to go ahead and read a little bit of Birthday Girl while I eat my salad. And then we're going to see where this book takes me and how much I'm going to enjoy this age gap romance.
You've erased all your pictures on your phone.
Okay, so this week did not go recording wise how I thought it would. And that is the reason why I'm saying that is it is now several days after the last clip, and I have finished Birthday Girl, and I have started and finished Credence. So I fully intended of recording myself, specifically reading this, and that way I can get my reactions of like whatever happened in it, because I was fully intending me to have some like shocking reactions. But that was not the case. I read this completely through and didn't record myself reading it once. So let's talk about Birthday Girl first. So that book was a age gap romance. It was a significant age gap. It was 19 and like 38. And so big jump. And it was also boyfriend's or ex-boyfriend's father. I ended up giving that book 4 stars. And I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable read. I was a little concerned because I was afraid that the FMC and the MMC would get together while she was still dating her boyfriend, because I don't really care for the cheating trope at all. I've only read one other book that had the cheating trope, and it's not my favorite. I don't like cheating. I just don't like that. So I was concerned that they were going to get together as she was still in a relationship with the boyfriend. That was not the case. So that at least made me feel better. And I did enjoy it. The reason why I rated it 4-star and not 5 was there were several scenes actually. Luckily, I don't think that they were when they were like spicy scenes, but I have I didn't enjoy the fact that the MMC would refer to the FMC as kid and little girl, because I felt like it was, so I understand the author putting it in there just to kind of show that clear, like the difficulties that the MMC was having with the age gap. Like he had to keep kind of reinforcing it to himself that she was way too young for him. And I think that was why he kept calling her little kid or little girl and kid. But I just kind of got annoyed with it. Luckily, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like consistently her being called that. But it was enough that it just, I don't know. I didn't like it. And then I wasn't, so I enjoyed the book, but I wasn't rooting for the couple. Like I wasn't excited and I wasn't like feeling anything for them. It was just kind of like a good read. I can see why people really liked it. I just didn't have the feeling for these characters, but I enjoyed reading it. So that was Birthday Girl. And now Credence. So Credence was the one that kind of originally prompted me to want to do this video. And then when Little Stranger was getting all the hype, that was the other reason. Those were the two books that kind of was like prompting me to do this video. So Credence has always been on my radar, and it had always been a book that I really was intrigued to read, because you either really liked the book or you absolutely hated the book and was disturbed by the book. So I read this in a little over a day, like a day and a half, 2 days. And I ended up giving this one 4.25. And this one, if you do not know, it is a reverse harem. It's basically a FMC who gets to kind of choose the MMC. And there are 3 of them. So you have Jake, who is the uncle, but it's the step uncle. Like no blood relation at all. And the FMC had no idea about the MMC. Like they had never met. They had never interacted. They only got together. Like she went to the uncle's house, Jake, his house, after her parents had passed away. So she, because she was underage at the time, had to go with a legal guardian, which was the last living relative that she had, and it was her step uncle, Jake. So she goes to Jake's house, which is very secluded in the middle of the like forest on a really steep hill in like Colorado, I think. And when she gets there, she meets Noah, who is her cousin, step cousin, no blood relation, and Caleb, another cousin, no blood relation. So she goes there until she turns 18, and then she's able to like go about her way and do the rest of her life as she wants. But by the time she turns 18, it is, because they're in Colorado in the mountains really high, they are snowed in, and she cannot leave until the snow is gone, which is like 6 months. So during the 6 month snow in, she is stuck at their house because she can't leave. She's underage. So as you can imagine, things happen. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, after reading Little Stranger and after reading For the Fans and Credence, I have come to the realization that I do not mind if it is stepbrothers, step-uncles, foster kids, as long as there's no relation, I'm okay. I especially prefer it when they don't know of each other. Like in For the Fans, they got to be stepbrothers when they were in high school, so growing up they had no idea, they weren't together, it wasn't part of their family, separate. So they didn't know each other until they were close to adulthood or into adulthood. So that was the same thing as in Credence. So she was 17 or going on 18. She is as of 18, she's a legal adult. She can do whatever she wants. She can do whatever she chooses. And her uncles and cousins have no blood relation. Little Stranger, though, that one's a little bit different because they're foster kids, no blood relation, but they know each other. Like they were in a family when they were like 6 and 7. So that's they grew up together. That's a little weird. But with Credence, so you have Jake, Noah, and Caleb. Caleb is like the bad boy. He doesn't speak. He has something that happens in his past that basically he has not spoken since he was a very, very, very young kid. And he's very, he's the bad boy. He's the one that's going to like start a fight. He's the one that's going to cause the trouble. That's Caleb. Then you have Noah, who is the dirt bike racer or the motorcycle racer. They're into dirt bike racing, I think. Motocross, whatever that is. He's into motocross. And so he's a racer, but I really enjoyed reading about him. He had some funny like lines. I really liked the interaction between him and the FMC. I don't know her name. It's like Tiernan. We're just going to keep calling her FMC because I can't pronounce her name. And so I really enjoyed their reaction or their interactions together. And then, so I had no problem with them. Had no problem with her and Caleb. Had no problem with her and Jake. And they're also, Jake and Caleb are in their 20s, like early 20s. So they're in the same kind of age bracket as the FMC. Uncle Jake is older. He is her dad's stepbrother. And so he is in his like 38 into the 40. He's like between 38 and 40, I think. And so age gap. And again, I don't really mind that. The thing that I had a problem with, and luckily it only happened, I think twice. But in Spicy Scenes with Jake and the FMC, she refers to him during the spicy scene as Uncle Jake. That is weird. And she's only known him by that time that they were having spicy scenes together for maybe a month. And so, and she doesn't refer to him. And what was also weird is prior to spicy scene being called Uncle Jake, she never referred to him as Uncle Jake before or very often. It was always Jake. But she chose to call him Uncle Jake during the spicy scene, even though she never really said that in normal conversations. That was a little weird. So other than that, and that was where kind of the ick factor was like just referring like during the scene of like, she said something and it was like something Uncle Jake. I'm not going to say it because it was during a spicy scene, but that was weird. And like I said, it happened like I think 2 times. And that's kind of what knocked it down a little bit because that was not cute. So, but other than that, really liked the book. Really liked Noah. He was a really fun character. I really liked reading about him. And then I really liked Caleb. Loved Caleb, actually. Loved him so much. He was the troubled, bad boy. And it was really, really good. I'm so glad I read it. I'm so glad I am on the side of the book talk community of liking Credence and not the other side of book talk. So that is my thoughts on Credence. And that is my thoughts after this journey. So after reading Little Stranger, For the Fans, Birthday Girl, and Credence, the things that I have realized when it comes to romances or dark romances or taboo romances is no blood relation, we're good. Age gap, but not a I knew you as a kid age gap, I'm okay. Also age gap as long as they're of age, okay. Don't really care for when they're like growing up together. Like no blood relation, but growing up together like as young kids, like 6 and 7, like in Little Stranger, don't really care for that. So that's what I've come to realize. I don't dislike taboo romances as long as those few things are adhered to. I'll enjoy the book. So, and now that I have these books done, the next books that I have on my shelf, I have a feeling I'm going to be bored with. I have a feeling Little Stranger, For the Fans, Birthday Girl, and Credence have ruined me for my next few books because they're not going to be as, like, entertaining, I'll say, as these. So, we will see. Maybe
going back into a different genre will be fine. If not, I have another dark romance that I have right over there, just like eyeing me, that I'll be picking up soon. So we're gonna go with what I have planned to read next, but if that fails, I have a dark romance. So, but with that, thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, please make sure you do so. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts on any of these books, did you like Little Stranger for the Fans, Birthday Girl, or Credence? Did you like them? Did you dislike them? What were your thoughts if you had read them? If you have not read them, do you want to read them? Let me know down below. I would be interested. So, with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.